Hello there, Qckslvrslash here today, and I've got another subscriber submitted replay for you guys today. And today it is Slippymoo driving the Tier 5 British cruiser, the Emerald. Now, I know in my Leander, VG, and pretty much all my British cruiser videos, I've said the line doesn't really get good to the Leander. And today Slippymoo is going to try to prove me wrong alongside one of his buddies. Now apparently they were doing some late night grinding, trying to get through this line. You can see he's running lots of flags, got the special Halloween cannon on, eager to finish the Emerald and into the Leander. And apparently this was his final game. And right off the bat, I hate Two Brothers, and I hate it even more on Standard Battle. Because at least when it's on Domination, there's some motivation for the team to go one way or the other. I find on Standard Battle, this map can just turn into the biggest stalemate, no one really wanting to push forward, and teams doing some pretty foolish things. And so far, the split on his team looks pretty decent. You've got a battleship, a couple cruisers, destroyer off on that side, and then a kind of main force over here. Now, the one big advantage that Slippymoo and Messius G are going to have is they can combine their smokes and guns and kind of become a bigger ship that is stronger. Kind of like a pair of Togs is greater than one Tog, and 3 Togs is better than 2. And the more Togs you have, the stronger they get. Well, I think the Emerald follows suit. Maybe it's just something about Her Majesty's ships and vehicles, but having multiple smoke-capable cruisers on one place, they can alternate smokes, alternate hydroacoustic surge, and join in on firing at targets. It can be devastating. I know I've had some great games over the last couple days playing with some of the guys from Overpowered Gaming, and we've just been running our Tier 8 and 9 British cruisers together and having monster games. And, well, hopefully these two prove me wrong in that the Emerald sucks, but right in that a pair of British cruisers just work together. And they've definitely got some targets to shoot at, but unfortunately the Emerald has a little bit limited range, only 13.6, not quite as good as the 15 to 16 you start to get later in the line, and the rate of fire isn't that good. You can see just shy of an 8-second reload, and the shells just don't seem to penetrate the same. And I'm gonna have to jump into the harbor at some point here and actually try to dig a little deeper into the shells. I suspect these ones are slightly different from the higher tier ones because they just don't seem to do as consistent of damage to superstructures of pretty much anything. You can see both of their AAs peppering away at that destroyer squad, or not destroyer, bomber squadron that went and bombed their friendly cruiser who is now dead. And things aren't looking good for Slippymoo's team. You've got a couple Dunkirks pushing around, and Dunkirks can be nasty ships if they can get into a position where they can just keep firing, particularly your battleships. 8 shells at HE all forward starts to add up very quickly, and when you have 2 ships doing that, it can be devastating. And unfortunately, Slippymoo and Messius G here don't have effective shots at too much right now. And the fine balancing act to the British cruisers is getting into position far enough forward that you have shots at enemy ships, but not so far forward that you get singled out. Now, you might argue that if they had gone up to this ledge of land, they'd still be protected and would have a lot more to shoot at. But if their team had pulled back, they would have been shit out of luck. And I've definitely had that happen to me. I've kind of identified a number of spots on some of the maps that I've been seeing more frequently that I know if I get my cruiser there and have 1 or 2 ships with me, I'm going to have a good game because I can do serious damage. But the second you get abandoned in those spots, it becomes very hard in these British cruisers to solo. And it just comes down to the weak armor, and they really do rely on that smoke to protect them and get the damage out. So when you can't use your smoke effectively because you've got no spotting, you end up in a tricky situation. Now you can see the enemy team appeared to do the midfield sneak, getting a destroyer right through the middle and wiping their carry-out really early, and not having a carrier in a game sucks. Even just for the interference that they can cause. And it looks like this Nevny is about to just ace a Congo. Yep, there it goes. Fortunately, gets finished off by the same Congo. So now Slippymoo's team is actually not in as bad a spot as you might think. Sure, their carrier's gone, they just lost a battleship, but they've taken out 2 of the enemy destroyers now, and 1 of their battleships. So that really starts to benefit this pair of emeralds, and the reason for it is, without massive numbers of torps coming into your smoke, you're even safer just sitting somewhere in the open. You know, if there's a lot of destroyers on the enemy teams, the places you pick to smoke and sit have to be protected from some sides so that you can control the torpedoes coming at you. You can't just kind of get into open water and be like, here's good enough, and pop smoke. The other thing that I think is really going to benefit them quite quickly here is this cyclone. You can see the enemy team, how they're spread out. They have 1 concentrated group of 4 ships here, and then the rest of their vessels are all kind of spread apart. So as that vision range comes in, these guys will be safe. Anyone who attacks them solo is going to get aced. But these cruisers down here are going to be exposed. And Slippy and Messias are going to take advantage of that. They've decided to take a play out of the enemy team's book and go right up the middle. And you can even see them talking to each other right there, talking about how they dropped the ball, letting the enemy destroyer just run up the middle. But you can probably see right now what I mean by these matches can get a little standoffish and slow. There was no pressure from either team to have to get into these tightened areas that eliminate a couple ships quickly and really force engagement. And as such, you've got 1 fleet way out on a wing here, and then a couple cruisers back at the base, their own teams kind of spread out. And you know, these guys up here are pretty much in a running fight, and they're gonna have to rely on pretty much Slippy's team getting into the cap and keeping it, because I doubt these 3 ships are gonna hold back all 4 of those. Now, fortunately, that Miyoko is giving them a sweet broadside and looks to be slowing up, probably because of those torpedoes. Slippy gets a pair of citadels, proving that even a low-tier ship can do some pretty big damage pretty quickly. It's a tier 7 Miyoko versus a tier 5 cruiser, but the Miyoko's just giving him the side, and he's taking advantage of it, giving him a good whooping, and I suspect that volley's it. There it is. First kill, 5 citadels, 24,000 damage to a tier 7 cruiser. And that is what you gotta do. If you're in a game where your team isn't performing, you know, maybe as well as they should be, taking out ships of a higher tier, especially 2 tiers higher than you, is always going to help your team out. And the Miyoko is a very dangerous cruiser if allowed to stand off and just keep firing. But it's no longer a concern. There's a Kirov in the cap, and I'm not sure what the other cruiser there is, but you can see Slippy's team back at base starting to fall apart. And that's when they find the next Miyoko. But these two are well coordinated. Doesn't take them long to get some shots out, knocking that Miyoko right down. Slippy slews over to get those turrets on the other side firing, gets a second kill. The Qckslvrslash opens fire, and they're in a gunfight at this point. Slippy does have smoke, and if I were in the situation where I wanted to burn it right now, I would actually use that sinking Miyoko. I would charge straight at it, ram the hull to pretty much insta-stop me, give me a temporary torpedo guard, and pop my smoke. So for people looking how to kind of use these ships, aggressively, those are the kind of things you have to do. You've got to find edges of land, ways of stopping your ship quickly. Because if you're in close, you can't afford to do the gradual slowdown to below 15 knots to pop that smoke. The one exception may be if you're perfectly nose on and the guy shooting at you just does not know what they're doing. Nürnberg pops into visual range. Once again, side on and gonna eat some damage. 2,000 damage. Next volley goes out. And another 2,900. So I know on the boards I've been talking about the Emerald, and I compare it a lot to the Qckslvrslash because I love the Qckslvrslash. And even with that health differential, if that Nürnberg had been paying attention to Slippy, I think he could have done some serious damage, but it looks like he was looking over his shoulder at Slippy's friendly cruisers. Now, so far this game has been going pretty well for Slippy and Messias. Both are on really good health. They haven't, taken much damage from the ships they have faced. And Slippy has a pair of kills, and between them, I can guarantee you they've got a pretty good chunk of damage. And that's when the ARP shows up. And this ARP is basically free damage. And if you play this right, you can do a ton. And I think it's here that Slippy should already be in a position trying to get his smoke out. You can see he does smoke. He's going a little fast, a bit of a risky play. Almost finishes that ARP hop there. Looks like they got knocked down by Slippy's allies. Fires blind, gets another hit. And with the rate of fire of these guns, you can keep shooting at spots like that. Maybe you don't know where the enemy is exactly, but who cares? Just keep firing the guns. They reload in a couple seconds. The other thing I would do if I was Slippy right now is I would be on that hydroacoustic. You're in a smoke, you saw a number of ships pretty close to you. That hydroacoustic could give you a vision advantage. They can't see you in the smoke, none of them have any means to do so. You could pop that hydro right now and quite possibly be spotting them. Fortunately, the Dunkirk enters someone's spotting range, and look at all those single fire torps. And that is one of the things I adore about these British ships, is you can just make a tight cluster of torpedoes that can absolutely wreck anything that gets in their line. And that Dunkirk didn't stand a chance. Oh my god, a Cleveland right over his shoulder. Point blank. I don't know if the Cleveland went for the ram, but it's too late for him because here comes the Wrath of the Emerald. Just a scream of death, and there goes the Cleveland. That ARP ship is still somewhere just out of view, and the Qckslvrslash's getting engaged by his friendly Higuro. Slippy has made some serious inroads onto the damage. 89,000 damage, 4 kills. His friendly Higuro gets killed. Qckslvrslash is side on. Perfect for doing some serious damage. You can see that stream of torpedoes. I'm guessing it came from Messias. And Slippy gets the Citadel and the Kraken, and is up to 93,000 damage, but this game isn't over. You can see in his cap, 1 enemy ship versus 2 friendlies, and there's still an ARP ship sitting somewhere just outside this cap, and thank God there is a Cyclone, because I can guarantee you, if that Congo or ARP bad shots, you could do some serious damage to these British cruisers. He gets spotted again on 900 hit points. Slippy brings his guns over, fires. The shells are coming in. He gets his nose in. You know he was clenching there as those were coming in. 8 health, no damage on the penetrating hit. And there's the kill, picking up a 6th kill. My word. I love games like this where you get into a cap and it just becomes frantic spamming of your guns, your torpedoes, wiping things off the map. In fact, my first game ever wasn't too different from this. I was in my turrets in this cap and I managed to kill 4 ships, I believe, in a matter of like 20 seconds just between torpedoes and guns. Saipan gets spotted and at this point it's just free hit points, and Slippy's definitely going to take advantage of that. He's working on him, and he's got a friendly battleship over his shoulder who's probably going to do the bulk of the damage here. And Slippy just eclipsed the 100,000 damage mark in a tier 5 vessel. That is always a great game. 6 kills. Really carried this team, I thought. And between the pair of them, they worked together and did a really solid job of that. And you can see here, Slippy wants the kill. He wants 7. He wants more damage. And really at this point, no reason not to chase. You've got the point advantage for a Saipan with the bomber loadout. To wipe out this many battleships would be highly implausible. Puts one more volley in the air. Shells are looking good. There's the 7th kill. Well, Slippy, you proved me wrong, and thank you very much for this replay. Clearly, the Emerald can carry games when a captain who maximizes her abilities is at the helm. Sadly, that's not me. My opinion of the ship is never going to change. The Königsberg is the tier 5 cruiser for me, but you proved this ship has what it takes when it's in the right situation. 248,000 credits, 6,900 experience, 1,300. Kraken, devastating strike, 114,000 damage, and just the mayhem that occurred in that enemy cap there, showing how to use those single fire torpedoes, just streaming them out at the enemies, point blank, erasing them. Absolutely amazing to watch, and I enjoyed every second. And it should come as no surprise, top of team, and what a way to go out on a ship. If this was your last game in the Emerald, you know, at least you went down swinging and have a good memory of this vessel. And I wish you all the best moving on through the rest of the British line, and I hope you have just as much fun as I have in them. Guys, if you enjoyed this, considering giving the thumbs up, subscribing to the channel, or submitting your own video. Qckslvrslash@gmail.com. The address is up in my channel information as well. I love watching the replays you send in, and they're just things that I could play 100 games, and you know, I'm never going to get in a situation like exactly like that. And it's a pleasure to watch, a pleasure to commentate, and I thank you very much, Slippymoo. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash. I'm going to have another one for you guys tomorrow.